The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
I'll show him. I hate it. I'll answer. You thought I couldn't answer? I'll just answer right off the bat.
You hate it?
What do I hate, Casey? What do I hate today?
I don't know. I thought you loved the intro, but I could make a better one, you know.
And by the way, he couldn't have done it last. He could have done it in the middle. It's like the Browns,
Right away.
they're putrid. Well done, Maurer, as far as that's concerned. But no, I don't hate it. You let me have my opinion about your team, and I do that in reverse. That's what makes this fun.
Yeah.
Nice try, though. Nice try. Got to try harder.
I guess I have to. I mean, it's just getting started. I mean, this is just the beginning of the season.
That's
just let
right.
you know. I mean, I'm just stirring the pot now. More to come.
I like when Casey's in that stirring the pot mood.
Oh, yeah.
As far as that's concerned. It sometimes backfires on him, but, it's going to go well today, I assume. But no, welcome in Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. Off and rolling here on a Wednesday. The NFL season officially kicks off tomorrow.
That's right.
And luckily, we could talk about actual games instead of
That's right.
off-season roster moves and acquisitions and trades and sit-outs and sit-ins and draft talk. Although, Elliot, help me out here. He's obsessed. He has an issue. He might need to be sent to rehab. This guy to my right, Mr. Tissett, had the nerve yesterday to say, so how soon is too soon for draft talk? And me and Elliot just paused. There was no talk. There was no response. It was just, what? You're an animal, dude.
Yeah, I'm already thinking about it a little bit, watching the games on Saturday. I was starting to formulate my big board a little bit for the draft. I was just posing the question. I don't know. Everyone loves the NFL, so I think it's the best to incorporate college football into NFL talk, and the best way to do that is the draft. But Kinner hates the draft, so if anyone's gonna get it in on the show, it's gonna have to be me.
Kinner does hate the draft, and that's a fact. He said it openly. And he wants to change it to where only the middle of the road teams get good picks, and the other teams pretty much get lost.
The teams that try.
Teams that try. The teams like the Panthers that are bad this year, they'll be bad forever. He wants to replicate how the MLB is.
I didn't want to do this.
And we'll just all be terrible together.
You just want to, just handouts. Handouts galore.
Handouts
galore.
Yeah, but Colin, with the point that I was trying to make, draft season doesn't start or end. It's a year-long thing.
Yeah.
There's never downtime for the draft.
Yeah. It's always evaluating.
That's right.
But hopefully,
they're saying you're wearing your Elder Panthers shirt today.
Yeah, sure. We'll let him have it. I love the color purple. So it's not on my golf glove.
Altiora.
Sure.
Oh, was that a shot at me?
It was.
Who
else has a purple golf glove?
I have a golf glove that's purple, and that's like one of the biggest knocks.
Well, both your golf gloves are purple.
No. I have one white glove, and I wear...
Because Elliot wears both gloves, a glove on both hands when he golfs.
So here's the thing.
Do you really?
Well, here's the thing. I did it for about 3 years where I didn't have two gloves on, but recently I had some weird mental block, and I had to have it on. My mind wouldn't let me, hold on to the club if I didn't have two.
The human brain's a funny thing.
It's a very funny thing. So now I'm like, the golfer on the tour, his name is Rye. His last name's Rye. I think I forget his first name. But he's got two gloves, so other people are doing it too. I'm just following the people on tour.
Two gloves rearing. I like
That's
it.
right.
I like it. No, to be fair, I get, people think it's wild that I keep my glove on when I putt.
Thank you.
When I putt, I keep my glove on. I've tried taking the
I do
glove.
that as well.
I tried taking the glove off when I putt, and then all I know, while I'm approaching the ball, all I could feel is that my left hand is cooler than my right hand because, you're sweating with the glove on, you take it off, and this is how my brain works. You talked about how the brain is weird. Yeah, it's my ADD. It gets the best of me every time. That's why I'm bad at golf. Yeah, that's
it.
That's it.
I will say I definitely putt better with no gloves on my hands when I'm putting. There's something about it where I'm just better at it. But I just out of laziness, I keep them on. I'm like, I'm good.
Then that's how I lose things.
Yeah.
Take it I can't lose it if I leave it on. I have one buddy who takes the glove off and then he attaches it around the little handle in in the golf cart.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'm leaving that there. Like, I'll lose that.
Oh,
It'll fall
100%.
off. No doubt about it.
I always have backups in everything in golf. I have backup gloves. I've got 4 gloves in my bag, 2 things of tees, unlimited golf balls. In case I lose anything, I've got backups. I have backup cover heads, head covers, whatever you would call them. So I'm ready to go. Also, Reed Mouse says no gloves in golf or baseball. Grip it and rip it with Kinner and Tissot.
That's right.
That's
right.
The nostalgia, the feel goods, it just hits you right in the feels. Grip it and rip it.
One of these days, they're going to log on to Off the Bench at 10A, and I'm going to be in that chair, and Elliot and Casey aren't going to be here. And we're just going to do a surprise episode of Grip It and Rip It.
One of these days.
One of these days. It's going to be the heat of the NFL season. We're going to have so much to talk about.
We should just do like a vintage graphics package.
Yes.
We'll bring out the old blue.
Yeah, we should get like a black and white filter over it to act like it's like, from like the 30s.
Yes.
We went to that Carolina blue too, just to make, completely stand out.
That's right.
Completely different from, but 3 days that show lasted.
Impressive.
3 days. So there you go.
Yeah, shows can impress in 2 ways. One of those ways is, lasting for a decade and, garnering sponsorships and making
Correct.
money. The other way to be impressive is to last for, I think, 4 shows.
Yes.
As a 3-time-a-week show, that's pretty impressive.
I was on it twice.
Once, and it was
Once.
the last
You
episode.
killed
You
it.
killed it.
Oh, I did kill
You
it.
were the nail in the coffin.
You killed it.
But I tried real hard.
You did.
It's about
for
the effort.
I don't know that you did.
I think I did.
You were 1 for 1 on appearances being the last show.
What was the craziest take I had on Grip It and Rip It with Kinner and Tissot?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
By the way, though, my only knock on that, we debuted a new show in the worst time of the year.
The worst possible time of the year.
That was the worst time of year to debut a new show. They're like, hey, go give everyone your takes. I'm like, but it's July. Nobody has takes in July.
This is a great segment.
Now, you loved it because that was the perfect time for draft talk.
That's
well,
right.
No, I mean, the draft, we're evaluating the draft months later.
That's the thing that you guys didn't necessarily understand is we did a segment of draft talk on Griffin Ribbit basically every day.
That's very, very funny.
In July.
Very, very funny.
Everett Henry said the Votto take killed it. I never mentioned Votto. I don't think
you did.
we didn't.
I think we stayed away from it.
I mentioned Votto.
You
To be
did.
fair, the
You
Votto
brought it
take
up.
I brought it back up.
So you did kill it.
I did kill it.
nail in the coffin as far as that's concerned. But there you go. Reed says no gloves in golf or baseball.
We already read that, Chad.
We already read that.
You did?
Yeah. And then I said that's how we got into the Grip It.
That's
Rip It.
right.
Remember what I said earlier? ADD?
That's not
Squirrel.
ADD. I think that was just
Not paying attention.
Yeah, I think that was just ignoring me. But that's okay.
That's the exact definition of ADD.
I guess.
Not paying attention.
Was that it? Are you sure that's what that is?
Attention deficit disorder.
Because I'm not willing to speak on scientific terms like that.
The Browns, they're putrid.
I saw. Not that now that the segment's off the rails. I saw.
It's a Friday vibe. I'm just throwing it out there.
I saw an absolutely ludicrous take yesterday, and I'm not gonna.
Oh, it's the best.
I'm gonna read the take out
Is it the
loud.
one you sent me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is.
the best.
So I'm gonna read.
It's the best.
I'm gonna read this, and this maybe we can have some conversation off this.
This is a good way to start the show.
I'm not gonna read.
Excellent.
I'm not gonna read who tweeted it.
You can find it.
But you can find it. So this individual says, in regards to Jamar Chase, he looks, and this is a video of Jamar yesterday smiling and having fun at practice while not practicing. This person says he looks the happiest he's ever looked all summer. My take is that the deal is pretty much done, and they don't want to spoil the announcement by having him practice.
Right. They're keeping that puppy in their back pocket. Don't need to prep for the game.
So if you're paying attention there, they want to keep the deal private and secret.
Just stick it to the Chiefs.
So in order to do that, we're not going to have one of our best players get out there and practice football.
I think I like that.
I
that
think
meme
that
when
is a
he's pointing
Bengals take.
I think I'm with
that.
that
is a
one.
Bengals fans take in the year 2024. That is what we've become.
I mean, we don't know that that's false.
Correct. We don't. Listen. Papa Brown could be sitting there and being like, you know what? We want this to be a big party and a big celebration. We don't want to get Jamar hurt before that big party.
It's like
for
the
culture.
So actually, you know what? Jacob might be talking me
it's
into
the
this. take
Galaxy
now.
Brain meme.
Yeah.
It's like extend your player, and have him prepare for the season.
Yes.
Extend your player and sit him out so it's a surprise.
Yes,
It's like the biggest brain you can possibly have.
but it's wild where this Bengals fandom has taken us in the past 5 years.
Okay, now I'm gonna.
Like
I would
you-
say play devil's advocate, but I think this is the better take.
Okay.
Say the deal's done, announced like 15 minutes before Thursday night kickoff,
Sure.
like a lot of us hope.
Sure.
He goes out week 1. He goes 150, 2 touchdowns, 12 catches.
Yep.
find out the deal was done back in like June.
Yep.
And they were just doing a little surprise thing, and they were just making sure he didn't get hurt.
That's what we call a PR stunt.
Then I'll be all in. I'll be all in. Good move, great decision, great take, well thought out. I'm all in at that point. But if he catches 4 balls for 40 yards with 3 drops, we're gonna have some problems.
I still don't know that we could say for sure that that person was wrong. The plan just might have backfired.
Might have just backfired.
Yeah.
That's right.
So here's the deal. If he plays Sunday, I'm going anytime touchdown bet for sure.
It's down to even money.
Oh, so it's not that like hot of a take to pick him to get a touchdown?
Well, that's down considerably.
Is it down? It went down. So what would you build a player prop bet around him if he plays on Sunday? Because I feel like he's the kind of guy that would tick me off as a rival fan.
Yeah.
He would go off for 120, 2 touchdowns, and just cheesing away at the camera afterwards. Because then everyone that knocked him, that was mocking the Bengals, it goes back to everything's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
Who cares, right? Like that would be the most Jamar Chase thing ever. I don't know about the most Bengals thing ever, but the most Jamar Chase thing ever. He's arrogant and cocky because he knows he could back it up. That's where, I mean, at the end of the day, as a rival fan, I could appreciate that. If I had a player on my team that was cocky and arrogant like that but always backed it up, I love that stuff. I love basketball players that are like that. Jamar Chase has that basketball type of vibe to him a little bit from a superstar standpoint. That would be the most Jamar Chase thing ever, 120, 2 touchdowns on Sunday if he plays and not practicing the entire time.
Yeah, I'm going to hold off on my Jamar Chase bets until we find out whether or not he's going to play. But I think the later and later we wait in the week, they're just going to keep falling because Ben Baby reported either late last night or early this morning that Jamar Chase is trending towards not playing if the contract isn't reached by week 1. So
that would be brutal.
Yeah, but everyone's holding on to the trending to not playing, and no one's talking about the if a contract is not reached. And Rappaport and a lot of other national media guys have reported that there are ongoing conversations, and they have been, working to get a contract done. So I wouldn't completely rule that out. Casey has brought up ad nauseum how active the Bengals have been in this week, this 10-day or so stretch, extending star players, and Jamar Chase certainly falls into the star player category. So it would follow the team's system, if you will, to extend Jamar Chase now. Is it ideal? Probably not. Is it what makes the most sense? Probably not. But is it what the Bengals continue to do? Yeah. So I'm really not going to be out on a contract extension until kickoff. When that ball's in the air on that weird-looking kickoff to start the NFL season, that is when I'm out on a contract extension. My faith is dwindling by the day, but it won't hit 0 until that ball's in the air.
So we're on the Chiefs. That seems to be the game. That seems to be game 1 of the season for Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
Man.
I think.
At this point. Because he signs today. What does that mean?
He would have to sign before – he would have to practice today to play Sunday, I think. At the very least tomorrow.
Really?
Because game plan starts on Wednesday. So you're not doing any install if you don't practice today.
Hasn't he been involved with that? Hasn't he been involved with, the meetings and everything? He hasn't skipped any of that.
Yeah, but there's a difference between off-season meetings and off-season practice and install practice for week 1 of an NFL season. I think if he's not practicing – and Jamar Chase is certainly an outlier. If a different player was not going to practice all week, if Jamar Chase shows up on Sunday not practicing, he's like, I want to play this week.
Yeah.
He's going to play. I think if he intends on playing without an extension, he will practice for install.
That's fair.
Is the game how drastic of a change is the game plan for an attack with Jamar Chase versus without? Is it as simple as, okay, he's not playing, here's our plan of attack. Okay, he is playing, here's our plan of attack. Like this, it's not like Madden where you're playing the video game and just gonna drop him in there. Like Madden's a video game. This isn't a video game. They are prepping for an offensive attack with him or without him. And this goes back to that point that everyone has been trying to make. Obviously, you want him out there, but do they need him out there? This is an explosive offense. You want him out there. Do you need him out there? That how drastic does the offensive game plan change with him out there versus without him out there?
I don't think it changes too much because I have an immense amount of faith in T. Higgins to be a wide receiver 1. I think the game plan gets much easier if he's out there because then, in my opinion, you have 2 wide receiver 1s on the field, which is obviously better than 1. But I have a lot of faith in the rest of this receiving core. I think the Patriots are absolutely terrible. So, I mean,
I don't think the Bengals become a run-first team because Jamar's not out there.
Exactly.
I don't think this is going to change too much, but again, not having your wide receiver 1 out there for a silly reason makes me upset.
Yeah.
So, all right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio. This is our Bearcat segment.
That was the Bearcat segment.
That was the Bearcat segment?
That was.
I think
Look at the ticker.
Yeah. ADD. It got the best of us today.
That's
know?
right.
We'll touch on the Bearcats.
We're going to. In fact, that's going to be segment number
People
2.
love
right.
to hear your Bearcats.
Oh,
takes.
they do. I know.
You're a big Bearcat fan.
That's right. Yeah, no, my top 10 got tweeted yesterday. Bearcats they must have cropped that out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think they did.
I think there was some
If
AI
only we did,
editing there.
If only
I
we
think
did
they
top
did.
11.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll never know. We'll never know. Towson might have snuck in.
All right, we'll be right back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Back with that.
Okay.
So yeah, when I putt, I don't wear the glove. It's free flowing. It's just free flowing.
I think. Listen, there's something about it when you take off the glove though when you're putting. It's just a work of art. It's you become one with the putter.
That's right.
And that's what it's about.
I like to get a little skin on the metal. You reach down below
yeah.
the grip a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
just feel the tingle run up your forearm.
Oh yeah.
I like that. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers,
Golf
Chatterbox
show.
Sports on
Continuing
YouTube,
with our
14.
Bearcats news.
All right, let's talk a little Bearcats. We got Bearcats breaking news.
No, we don't.
Oh.
We have
I'm
golf
confused.
breaking news.
Oh!
Since this is a golf show,
Yes, grip it and rip it, Jake. Take it from here.
rip it and rip it with Kinner and
Oh, you said
Tissot. I
grip
am
it.
Tissot.
Grip it and whip it, dude.
Did I say whip it?
Yeah, I think you did.
Oh, well.
The whole kit and caboodle right there.
That works too. But breaking news in the golf world. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for some PGA Live action, and we finally
right.
get some. Rory and Scotty are going to face Bryson DeChambeau and Brooks Koepka in a PGA Live showdown in December. That's going to be incredible.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be incredible. Those are two best golfers, at least for name value, on both tours. Scotty, clearly the best in the world. Bryson, not on the President's Cup team, which stinks.
Yep.
But we'll see him in that in December, which will be great. I don't know who will take that one. I'd have to go with Scotty because he wins everything these days. But that'll be a fun event to see those guys compete against each other in something other than a major.
President's Cup team. It's the first time they haven't had Spieth and JT in a while, I believe, right? So kind of a new era of golf is starting to form. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm certainly going to watch it. Is the relationship between Brooks and Bryson healed yet? That's healed, right?
Yeah, I don't think they hate each other anymore.
I don't think they hate each other anymore.
They might not be the best of friends.
That's the only reason I wouldn't. That's the only reason I wouldn't like to bet on them if I was able to bet on this event at all.
Everett makes a good point in the chat. He said Brooks will refuse to give Rory any gimmies, and Rory's going to get upset and lose.
Listen. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna take.
I like that take.
I'm gonna take Bryson and Brooks because I do think you can get in Rory's head.
I do too.
I
And
think
if
it's
anyone
gonna be,
can, it's those two.
Hey Rory, look how much more money I make than you.
And you still don't win.
And look how many more majors we've won since we've joined. I think there's a way to get in that head. Now Scotty's a different beast. So
Scotty
Scotty's
got arrested and it didn't get in his head.
That's true. Scotty's going to play very well. But I don't know. I think there's a chance Rory falls off the wagon.
It's been the year of Scheffler,
That's right.
and it might continue.
One of the best years of golf by one player ever.
It's amazing to look at how good this year is, and it's been amazing, but like compared to just any.
Oh, yeah.
of
And it just
Tiger's,
proves that-
it's not even close.
Yeah, it's a shame Tiger played in an era where he didn't make that much money
right.
on tour because he would have made $1 billion
A year.
maybe $1 billion a year.
Yeah.
It also proves how much it pays to get arrested.
True.
It's true.
If you get arrested, get your name out there, people talk about you, then people tune in and they pull for it. That's how you do it. I might get arrested on the way home today.
Please.
Please. A lot of people are like, please. Life sentence, dude. Throw out the key.
What would be the crime that you commit?
With as much as he drinks, there has to be a
Yes.
little bit of overlap.
You're right.
Yes. How much do I drink? Get it out. Come on.
A lot.
You-
You're hungover every day. I only see you 5 times a week. You're hungover for most of them.
I feel pretty good today.
That's
I feel
good.
pretty good today. You know, the tolerance is starting to pick up a bit as far as that goes. But all right, want to talk? Should we talk sports?
Sure.
Well, golf's a sport, but should we follow the run? Casey's getting mad.
Huh? I'm not getting mad.
ADD Casey over
No,
here.
I'm not getting mad.
Squirrel.
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 All right, let's talk little Bearcats. Okay, Jacob. Should we allow Jacob to have be a part of this
Please.
conversation?
I think Jacob should be the leader of this conversation.
All right.
Leader of men.
I'll take
Right
him. That's right.
So we talked about this yesterday. Well, we talked about the Bearcats yesterday, but I'm kind of curious because there's one former head coach for Cincinnati that everyone seems to have, that can all mutually agree they despise this guy, of course, and that's Brian Kelly, right? Like the way that he just up and left Cincinnati, very similar to what other coaches have done, which wasn't cool, of course. We get that. It's not the first time that it's happened to the Bearcats, but I am kind of curious. There are other former Notre Dame coaches right now that seem to kind of be fan favorites within the Bearcat community, of course. One being Luke Fickell and another guy being who wasn't the head coach but a part of the coaching staff, and that was Marcus Freeman. The question I have is and I never know how to kind of view these types of things. You know, being an Ohio State fan, it's not your coach doesn't ever leave Ohio State to take another job, so it's not the same. But if you are following a team like Cincinnati, where that particular coach or those coaches are a part of, you know, getting your team to rise to, you know, a nice little window of dominance, like we saw from the Bearcats during that stretch, getting to the college football playoff, you know, going undefeated, living up to expectations, doing all those types of things, putting a lot of players in the NFL. When you think about the Luke Fickell era, you think about Marcus Freeman being a part of that coaching staff. It kind of brings back a lot of, you know, the feel-goods, if you will, to Bearcat fans. But the question I have is, you guys resent Brian Kelly, not because he left, but for how he left. Luke Fickell didn't leave the way Brian Kelly left. He came back to Cincinnati after flirting with the Michigan State job. He, you know, took them to the playoff. He made them relevant. And then, of course, he then takes the Wisconsin job. The question I have is it just as simple as that? It's not that Brian Kelly left. It's just the way he left. Do Bearcat fans pull for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame on Saturdays? Are you guys slightly keeping an eye on Wisconsin? And when Wisconsin wins, or if he gets them to reach a level of success with them that he was able to do at Cincinnati, will you be happy for him and happy for the Wisconsin program? Or you're with us or you're against us? You being a Bearcat fan, Elliot, what do you think the popular mindset is with Bearcat fans? Are you pulling for Luke Fickell? Are you pulling for Marcus Freeman on Saturdays moving forward?
Luke Fickell, if I was with him in a bar and he was sitting next to me, he would never have to buy himself a beer. I'd buy the beer for Luke Fickell. And I think most Bearcats fans feel that sentiment. Now, where the line gets a little blurry is towards the end there, it seemed like he was about a quarter of the way in instead of being all the way in.
He was coaching the Bearcats from Madison.
I think that he was so involved with Wisconsin towards the end of that season that it's hard for me to sit here and be like, you know what, I don't have any ill will, because I think there was some shady stuff that went on there, and I'm not a big fan of that. But nonetheless, I think there is a little bit of a difference between what he did and what Brian Kelly did. Brian Kelly led the Bearcats to arguably the biggest game in program history at the time, in that Sugar Bowl against Tim Tebow. And then he left. He left before the biggest game in our program's history, just up and vanished. And then, of course, it didn't help that we got blown out. Luke Fickell did the same thing. Biggest game in program history, greatest season of all time in program history. And you get to the playoffs, you hear the rumors about Notre Dame. Is he going to take the job? And I do think if they weren't in the playoffs, I think there might have been a chance that he would have been the head coach of Notre Dame. But Marcus Freeman got the job because Luke Fickell was the head coach at the time, and he was going to make it his mission to coach us in the biggest game in our program's history. And for that, I thank him, and he has still my highest respect. I don't think there's anything that he could have done that would have lost it at that point, because no coach could have done what he did for us in that year. He's in the record books as the only non-Power 5, now Power 4 coach to take one of those teams to a playoff. So yeah, I think fans still love him. Me personally, again, I have nothing but respect and love for him. But at the end of the day, am I going to cheer for the University of Wisconsin to be successful? No, I will not.
Let me ask this. Am I missing something? Is that like a bit? What was he doing with Wisconsin the last month of the season?
He coached Wisconsin in the bowl game.
He coached Wisconsin's bowl game.
He was their head coach in
year.
the bowl game the year he coached UC.
God, am I like completely missing this?
Like,
No, I believe you. I can't believe
it was insane.
There was a
what
game
is happening. I don't remember that. Like,
he
I'm
coached
being
UC
honest.
for a 12-game season and
Yep.
then flew to Madison and coached Wisconsin in the bowl game.
Wow. I don't know why. I feel like I would have. That would be something I would have been all over. I believe you guys. I'm just saying I can't believe I'm forgetting that. That is wild.
ridiculous.
I've truly never seen anything
I
like
haven't either.
it. But nonetheless, he got us one of our biggest accomplishments that we'll ever see in our football program's history. Nothing but love for him. Thank you very much. Saying that, I do not root for Brian Kelly. I will not root for Luke Fickell in Wisconsin.
Okay, question.
I will root for Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, that wasn't my. Who left the program in a worse position, Kelly or Fickle? When they left, I think it's very close.
I like that question because you don't want to say it.
Because everyone says Brian Kelly left the program in a terrible spot when he left, and that's why everyone hates him. I think Fickle, that playoff win was monumental for the program. I think he left it in a pretty bad spot when he left.
But I think Fickle's guys were all graduating. I think it's a little, I think it's a little bit of a difference.
But I think he timed it up well. He could have stayed and left a decent foundation for the next coach. He got out of here as soon as it was going to get tough.
Sure, and maybe that's the case. But at least from my recollection,
he Brad Stevens them basically.
I think that
move up that conference. You know what I mean? Like you got him to the back-to-back Final Fours. They leave the horizon. They go to, was it the Big East or the A10? Was it the A10? The A10. You get them to move up a conference, and you would think that the Brad Stevens Butler Bulldogs would transition well into that conference with all the momentum, but then he leaves and a new coach comes in and has to start from scratch while entering a new conference. I kind of agree with Jake questioning that because I think Cincinnati, I don't know what did they gain from that college football playoff appearance? Because no one remembers him for that now. Luke Fickle's not there. There's nothing there that people remember.
Well, they wouldn't have got to the Big 12 without it.
Yeah, I think people remember.
But like Houston and other teams got there without getting to the playoffs.
Houston's had a lot of basketball success.
Is it the Texas market too?
Yeah, they have a. Yeah, I mean, if we
so
want
if they don't make the
talk
playoffs,
jobs, I think Houston's a better job than UC.
I think UC got it as. I think I won't entertain that. I think.
That's a debate?
I think UC.
Oh no!
I think no. I think UC's when they got to the playoff, I think that broke the barrier into. Honestly, I think it was the start. I know it's been in the works, but it was the start of this 12-team playoff that it could happen and that it could work. Now I know what happened in the bowl game against Alabama. I'm aware of the score. But at the end of the day, I do think that game changed a lot for not just our program, but for college football as a whole. And I do think you have to credit Luke Fickle for that. I think you have to credit him. You have to credit our program. And, yeah, I think it did matter. I think people do remember the University of Cincinnati for being the first and only non-power school to make that playoff.
So, and I do think every situation is different too, right? Like, the thing about Alabama football, and Alabama football wasn't as relevant when Nick Saban took over versus what they are when he left. But the health of that program, I'm not comparing Alabama to Cincinnati, but like a lot of times when you're a Cincinnati program, everything relies on that coach and the life that they bring to that program. You know, Fickle built that up to being having national relevancy. And the only thing, as far as national relevancy is concerned, the only connection to national relevancy is Luke Fickle. Alabama's been a national power before. It's not like they needed Nick Saban. I mean, Nick Saban got him back to that, but you don't need Nick Saban to do that. That's why Nick Saban's left. Alabama still is a very healthy program. You look at college basketball. Coach Krzyzewski leaves Duke. It's a very healthy program. North Carolina, you lose Roy Williams. It's a very healthy program. Urban left Ohio State. Very healthy program. It keeps on going. Cincinnati relied on Luke Fickle. That's why it looks like, oh man, he left him high and dry. The problem is, I don't know if there was a succession plan that would have ever allowed them to keep on going.
Well, I think
maybe it was Marcus Freeman.
Right. The succession plan
maybe it was
Marcus
that.
Freeman.
I guess I answered my question in mid-thought. But yeah, I guess like Cincinnati had everything going in their favor. You get that invite to the Big 12. It felt like they were just on the rise. Man, now they're getting the respect they deserve from what they've done in the American. But like Luke Fickle not taking them to the finish line, the only comparison I have for that is we saw that with Butler, and I made that comparison already. But this reminds me so much of when Butler got called up to a bigger conference. Although going to the A10 is not the same as being called up to a Power 4 in the Big 12 as far as that's concerned. I don't know if that's Luke Fickle's fault, but he did not. Him leaving destroyed the Bearcat program as far as setting him back quite a few years because it's tough to transition into a bigger conference. I don't think it would have been as hard if Luke Fickle's your head coach. Having that recent playoff appearance and that relevancy, I think it would have changed a lot of things on the recruiting trail as far as that's concerned.
And I'm not necessarily blaming Fickle. I don't want to come off that way. If you want to take a job, take the job. Like he obviously entertained other jobs in his time at UC, and he felt like the Wisconsin job was the right time to leave. Did he handle it right? That's certainly a debate, but I don't necessarily think it's his job to set UC up for the future. Yeah. It's his job to worry about his own coaching career and go wherever he thinks is best for himself. But I do think it's important to bring that up when talking about just like UC fans rooting for Fickle, the original question we had here, just because I think that though that playoff victory was so monumental, I think as time passes, if UC can't bounce back, the opinion of Fickell will deteriorate.
I don't think so. Because he was there at the peak. He was there at the top of the mountain when the program got there. I think that's the difference. He went into battle with his guys and he fought until the very end. I think once the playoff year ended, I think there was a new chapter and he started to turn the page on us a little bit. But again, I don't fault him for that. There is no other person that could have done what he did at that time. I firmly believe that, and we will remember him for that. I'm aware of the current situation of the program and where we are now with Scott Satterfield and who he left here. He left us here maybe high to dry when he went to Wisconsin. But at the end of the day, our best memory of this football program will be because of Luke Fickell.
That's fair. Dribble out this clock with Satterfield for a couple of years because it's not going very well in Wisconsin.
That's true.
Then bring Fick home.
What if
that offense looks terrible?
What if that was the plan all along? What if Luke Fickell? It's just time to come home.
And I don't know what the money. I don't know what he got paid at Wisconsin versus what Cincinnati could have paid him. We're learning about Cincinnati as
I think
this
it was
continues.
a couple mil more.
What are you willing to pay to get a legit head coach? Here's the other problem I would have with Fickell from a Bearcat perspective. If Cincinnati remained in the American and Fickell left you to take the Wisconsin job, I think we can all mutually agree that you understand that. The problem I have with Fickell leaving is that, the perception is, if you leave the American Conference to take a Power 5 at that time, a Power 5, now Power 4 job, we can all understand that, that makes sense. No one dreams of coaching in a non-Power 5, non-Power 4 program. But Cincinnati got called up to the Big 12. So you left. You can't say that he left a mid-major type situation. Like if we're going to compare it to basketball, like if Butler would have got called up to the Big East or got called up, to the ACC or Big Ten or something. I know that's random, but and then he left. You're like, well, why are you doing that? Like you're now joining a Power 5, Power 4 conference or a high major conference. What are you doing? My only pushback to Luke Fickell is, again, they stay in the American and you leave, that's understandable. But you left a now Power 4 team to go to another Power 4 team. I don't understand that. That would be my pushback as far as that's concerned. But either way, he had the right to go. We'll see if it works out in Wisconsin. I don't think it's obvious. It's clear it's not working out for Cincinnati right now. But Satterfield, he's just the rebound. He's the rebound guy.
Yeah, you don't want to be the guy after the guy.
Yeah, that's 100%.
You got to be the guy after the guy after the guy.
It's hard to be the guy after the guy, especially when this guy wasn't even close to being the guy at his place.
You guys follow that?
In fact, they wanted him out of there and begged and pleaded.
My guy after the guy is doing all right.
That's fair.
You have two rebound guys.
Both my guy after the guys are doing all right.
Yeah, but I think your guy after the guys. I think your guys have a better place to succeed.
That's fair. Better job, man.
I think it's.
By the way, he just kind of pulled a hardball, basically implying that, hey, some people are born on third base and act like they hit a triple.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so. UC's born way deep in the dugout.
Come on.
Foul ball territory.
This Alabama troll, he has to come on here and make fun of UC.
Yeah, sitting on the double bubble bucket right outside the gate.
It's that frat boy mentality, dude.
That's right. Shout out Tonk.
Does Tonk still exist? Let's look him up on Twitter.
Yeah, he's been tweeting.
Still?
Yeah.
Is he a friend now?
He seems real.
There's a UC fan named Ed, and he just tweets at Jacob. He doesn't add him.
No.
He'll just tweet, and it won't be about UC either.
No, he tweeted yesterday morning, Jacob thinks Chase is selfish. Not at me, not at Jamar.
Wasn't in response.
Dude, that's
to
cool.
No context.
That's cool because everyone knows who Jacob is, right?
Right, of course.
So we have to.
Yeah, no, naturally.
That is
Shout out
awesome.
to my guy Ed.
Shout out to my guy Ed.
Your guy Ed.
Cincy fan Ed. What up? All right, want to transition over to the NFL again?
Yeah, I think we should.
Will Jamar Chase play on Sunday? We debate. No, I'm just joking. We are done. We're a little over that. No, now with the season officially kicking off tomorrow, I'm curious what you guys' predictions are on NFC playoff teams, AFC playoff teams. We even got some cool little graphics package that we decided to roll out for this.
Ooh.
Right, Casey?
Yeah.
Casey was working hard on this, and we appreciate him for that. No, we're going to do a little AFC playoff predictions, NFC playoff predictions coming up around the corner. We'll talk about the Bengals depth chart and full reaction to that. Again, Jacob, I know talked about this on Chatterbox Bengals, but we'll dive into what the depth chart looks like. There's only one thing that was kind of a surprise. One of the big offseason acquisitions, not as high up on the depth chart as what many were anticipating. We'll get to that around the corner as well. Bengals captains, we didn't touch on that yesterday. It's more about the names that aren't on the captains list than the names that are on it. We'll get to all of that coming up. A lot more Bengals coming your way. This is Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Was kind of shocked that not one of those three.
Gotcha.
But hi.
Hey.
And now we talked about it. So now we can go back now. All right, so the season officially kicks off tomorrow. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And right before kickoff is when Jamar Chase will announce that he has signed his contract with the Cincinnati Bengals. That's my prediction. But it is what it is. That's our Jamar Chase topic for, second segment of that topic, technically. But no, with the season officially kicking off tomorrow, we get to dive into our predictions phase, into looking at how we think things are going to lay out. Should we start out with the NFC or the AFC?
Let's start with the NFC.
Let's start with the NFC. All right, we're going to go around. We're going to give our predictions for how we think the NFC playoff picture.
Oh.
What happened?
Let's just show the graphic.
Let's just show the graphic. What happened?
This is AFC.
None of those
there.
teams play in the AFC.
Oh, damn.
Worked so hard on that.
Damn.
That's tough.
Did mine do that too?
I think right now,
I think it's just Skinners.
if you don't hammer the Niners winning the AFC this year,
the value on the Niners to win the AFC is
Justin.
I can promise none of these teams are probably making the AFC playoffs. That's the one guarantee that I'll get right.
This is the best part about being on the radio is they can't see that.
No,
Yeah.
so we can just rock.
Let's roll through it.
Let's do it.
But Case,
Are they all like that?
Yeah. Let me ask you this: is my AFC graphic NFC playoff prediction?
That would be funny.
No.
okay.
Your AFC is correct.
You're just a diehard AFC fan.
You're just a
Yeah.
bit. You want two AFCs.
You won't even say the NFC's name.
I want to
That's
get rid
correct.
of the NFC like I want to get rid of the draft, dude. I just want to just get rid of it. All right. It says AFC, but it is our AFC. It's our NFC playoff prediction. We're off and rolling. I don't think this. Look, I thought that the NFC. I think I talked to you yesterday about this, Jacob. The NFC is actually way better than I thought. The NFC has actually bulked up way more than I thought, because when you look at those teams right there, look, the Niners, Lions, Falcons, Cowboys, all my division winners as we currently sit here right now. And you look at the wild card teams, and by the way, the Eagles, Cowboys, that's a coin flip as far as who could take that division. The Eagles have one of the best rosters in all of football. However, I look at that particular situation, and just all I could think about is they had one of the best rosters in football last year, and they couldn't seem to get it right. And there seems to be some talk and reports that, there might be a little bit of an issue as far as the connection between Jalen Hurts and, of course, between their head coach at this point. So it's just going to be one of those things. Did they iron out some of those details in the offseason? I'm still going to go with the Dallas Cowboys at this point, because throughout all the noise and the mess in the offseason, this is still a team that, although they didn't add a lot of big names in the offseason, they still return a lot of the team that was one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL. This is a team that has had more 40-point performances than any team in the NFL. All right, Dak Prescott, one of the best statistical quarterbacks in the league. People just start to doubt him when, in crunch time against some of the better teams, of course, and late in the season come playoff time. I'm still going to roll with the Cowboys because I like their offense. It has statistically outperformed the Eagles. I'm a Jalen Hurts guy. I just need to see it. I haven't seen it recently. We've seen the Cowboys roll recently. I'll roll with Dallas. The Falcons, I've let the guys convince me. I'm buying in.
Let's go.
I got bought into.
Let's go.
With the Atlanta Falcons. I love the addition of Judon. I love the fact that they already had Jesse Bates, and they go out and get Justin Simmons on top of that. You have two dynamic safeties, of course. You have a dynamic pass rush now, and then you have an offense that's going to complement that, of course, with Bijan Robinson, of course, and you bring in Kirk Cousins, who no one is going to take Kirk Cousins to build around Kirk Cousins by any means, but this Falcons team had all the pieces in place, and they were sitting back saying, why are we going to draft a quarterback and wait for the development of that quarterback? We can just go get a quarterback right now that we could drop in place, and let's try to ride this thing out. Let's try to maximize the talent that's on this roster, and that's what they're doing right now. I really like the Falcons, but I do have the Niners and the Lions finishing 1 and 2 in the NFC as far as that's concerned. I really like the Niners. I think their Super Bowl window is closing. They get the deal done with Trent Williams. He's reported to practice. They get that taken care of course. Brandon Ayuk, to his credit, I don't know if you guys saw this, he addressed the media yesterday. He did admit that he probably made things more difficult than they needed to be. He kind of regrets that a bit, but he's been in sync. He's locked in. He's ready to roll. Brock Purdy, Deebo Samuel, obviously Brandon Ayuk, Christian McCaffrey, that whole gang. I think their Super Bowl window's closing as far as being able to financially afford that stacked roster like that, because Brock Purdy's going to be due to be paid a year from now. But I think they're ready to rock. I think the Niners, Lions, Falcons, Cowboys win their divisions. That's where the wild card gets a little interesting. I really do like the Eagles just because I think that roster's too talented to miss the playoffs, but I think there's just enough deficiencies internally to keep them from being consistent enough to win the division. That's why I have them in the wild card. I'm very high on the Bears and Caleb Williams. I think I love what the Bears did. They knew they were going to take Caleb Williams with that number 1 overall pick, but rather than sitting there and treating it like a wait and see, they're just assuming that he's great, and they gave him every weapon you could imagine. They have the defensive side of the ball covered. They added weapons as far as wide receivers are concerned, things they did not do for Justin Fields. I like the Bears in this particular situation. I probably would have given them the division. I need to see it first. I need to see Caleb Williams dominate first for me to give them the division, just because I really like the projection of what we've seen so far from the Detroit Lions in year 3 or 4 of them kind of being relevant within the NFL again, no doubt. And then I really like the Rams. If you have your quarterback healthy, all right? You get Cooper Kupp healthy and Puka Nacua healthy. And I know they lost Aaron Donald. You don't just replace that. But again, they're more defensively than just Aaron Donald. I do like the defense of the Rams. I like the complement of the offense with the defense as well. That's my NFC playoff picture. I'm kind of curious what your guys' picture looks like. How much drastically different is the NFC picture for you guys? Who wants to start? Who we starting with? Are we going to Jacob? Jacob, your NFC playoff picture.
We are. My NFC playoff prediction is a lot different than yours.
Nice.
A lot different.
I like that, actually.
1 seed stays the same. I think it's a pretty chalk pick across the board. I assume it'll probably be everyone's pick. I don't want to speak too soon, but San Francisco 49ers are going to win that division. They're going to be the 1 seed. I think the Falcons with Kirk Cousins and their defensive additions are going to steamroll through the NFC South. I think they might go 6-0 in that division, and then that means you probably need to pick up 5 wins or so in the next 11 games to be the 2 or 3 seed in the NFC. So I absolutely think the Falcons are going to be the 2 seed, certainly win that division. I sprinkled them at crazy value to be the 1 seed in the NFC. I think there's a chance they're that good. I think that division is that bad, and I believe in a lot of the pieces on their roster. Number 3, I have the Packers. I think they're going to win the NFC North. I know that everyone's high on the Lions, but everyone talked about the Bengals taking a massive regression when they were a surprise Super Bowl team. Everyone talked about every team that has shocked taking a massive regression the year after, except for the Lions. The Lions make it to the NFC Championship last year, and everyone just points to them as a no doubt pencil them in to the championship or Super Bowl. I personally don't necessarily disagree. I think they have a great roster, but I don't think they're going to go back-to-back division champions after not winning the division for so long. I still have them in the playoffs as the top wildcard team, but I think the Packers and Jordan Love take that division. Number 4, I think the Cowboys take the NFC East, and as you can see, they are the only NFC East team in my playoffs. I do not have the Eagles making the playoffs. I think they're due for a big regression year. I think they invested in pieces that I don't necessarily love. I think Saquon Barkley's contract was way too high for an injury-riddled running back, and I don't think running backs matter too much, especially when you have Jalen Hurts at quarterback. So I think the Eagles are going to regress, and that's certainly going to help the Cowboys. I believe in Dak, especially in a contract year. I think they're going to have a really good season offensively, and I think the defense will take a step as the corners get healthy. They didn't have Trayvon Diggs last year. I think having him back will make a massive difference for that team. The Lions at 5, I already touched on it. Talent everywhere, both sides of the ball. I think they're a really good team. I just like the Packers a little bit better. The Bears at 6, this is the best situation number 1 overall draft pick has ever come into. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, a wide receiver, the backfield of DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson. The talent is everywhere. The offensive line was pretty good last year, getting better basically every week with young pieces across the board. And then the defense, after they got Montez Sweat at the trade deadline, was a top 10 defense in the league. So I know they finished 7-10, but that's still a pretty good record to have the quote-unquote number 1 pick. Remember, the Panthers were the worst team in the league last year and had previously traded the pick to the Bears, so they weren't the worst team in the league last year, even though they got Caleb Williams. And then picking Odunze at 10, I really, really, really like the Bears this year. I think they're going to be a playoff team. I think they're going to compete for the division, but I have the Packers and Lions edging them out slightly. My real shocker is the last wildcard team in the NFC. I have the Cardinals. I think people don't remember how good Kyler Murray is. I think when he's healthy, he's an elite quarterback in the league, top 12 or so, in my opinion. I think the addition of Marvin Harrison is great. Greg Dortch is a very underrated slot receiver. He led the NFL in route win percentage on press man-to-man last year, which is a great trait to have for a second slot receiver. I think Marvin Harrison is a drop in and play top 10 receiver in the league. He's going to be unbelievable this year. The defense has some encouraging pieces, still a ways to go, but I think the offense is going to be fast enough, strong enough, and score enough that they're going to be a playoff team in the NFC this year. Those are my 7 in the NFC. I have a feeling Elliott's not going to have a lot of overlap in those wildcard teams.
Well, I think we might because I might have been sold into that last one there.
Let's go!
I might have been sold into the last one. So here we go. I have the San Francisco 49ers at 1. I think this is easy. I think that's the best roster in the NFL. If Brock Purdy can be some semblance of himself from last year, that team will be playing for another Super Bowl. And can Shanahan get the job done? I think he can. I think eventually he's going to win a Super Bowl, and I think it might be this year. I don't think the Chiefs can win it 3 times in a row. I don't think, but who knows? The Lions are the second best team in the NFC. I don't think that's particularly close either. Again, they're coming off a hot season. They weren't expected to be as good as they were last year. It reminds me a little bit of the Bengals when the Bengals went and had their Super Bowl run out of the blue. The next year, the Bengals were still very, very good. The Lions will have a very, very good season this year as well. I'm not as high on the NFC North as Jacob, but nonetheless, I do think the Lions are going to be successful this year. They were 12-5 last year. I think they're going to win the same amount of games this year. The Cowboys, again, I'm going to have them winning the NFC East, the NFC Beast, as some like to call it.
That's right.
I do think it's going to be a tight race between them and the Eagles. I think it's going to come down to head-to-head games between those two. And I think the Cowboys are going to beat them twice. So, yeah, I think the Cowboys are the third best team in the NFC, taking that 3 seed. 4 seed, the Falcons. I didn't think too much of the Falcons until Casey and Jacob started talking in my ears about it. I think that division truly might be one of the worst I've ever seen.
Oh, yeah.
And if you look down it, it's the Bucks, the Saints, the Falcons, and the Panthers. I don't think the Panthers win 4 games. I don't think the Saints win 5 games. I don't think the Bucks win 8 games. So outside of that, you have the Falcons. I think they're going to take a lot of divisional games. And to be quite honest, the rest of their games don't matter as much. If you can somehow go 5-1 in that division, that terrible division, they're going to be in line for a very good season. So that's what I predict. I think the Falcons are in at the 4 seed, winning the NFC South. The Packers, I think they're a good team. I think they're going to probably finish right around the same record. Maybe they'll get 10 wins this year, opposed to last year's 9. But nonetheless, I think it'll be a very, very close divisional race between them and maybe the Vikings. I think the Vikings finish a little bit better. And I don't buy in the Bears. I'm sorry, I don't buy in the Bears. I have to see it. I think rookie quarterbacks struggle. And until I see what Caleb Williams has, I'm not going to say the Bears are going to be in contention for the postseason. I won't do it. The Eagles, again, I think they're going to have a very good season. I think people sleep on the Eagles. They saw the collapse that happened last year, and they've written them off completely. They have one of the best offenses I've ever seen, and they're going to win a lot of football games this year. And finally, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the only reason I picked this, it was between them or the Bears. Again, I don't think the Bears are remotely close. I think the Vikings would have gotten my nod ahead of them. The Seahawks, I don't think they have a quarterback for it. No offense to Casey's guy. And I think the Rams, unfortunately, are going to deal with injuries this year. And that's no fault of their own. It's just I think Stafford's nearing the end of his career. And when you see that in a quarterback, and if Stafford can't go a majority of this season, I obviously don't believe in the Rams. So I think the Cardinals are going to have a bounce back season. I think Kyler Murray's better than what people think. I think James Conner's a better running back than what people think. You have Marvin Harrison. I think that's a damn good football team. And you're playing in a division that can be winnable outside of the 49ers. You take away the 49ers, I think it's very, very close between the Cardinals, Seahawks, and Rams. And I think the Cardinals have the talent offensively to get it done.
Yeah, the team I think it was Chase Wellman in the chat, brought up no love for the Seahawks. I do love the Seahawks. It's just they're missing the most important piece, right?
Yeah.
And how buttoned up, where are you at with the Seahawks defense at this point?
I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to be incredible. I think Mike McDonald is the Mike McDaniel of defensive minds in the NFL. And obviously when Mike McDaniel went to Miami, their offense didn't miss a beat. He's a great offensive coordinator. He's a great head coach, and I think Mike McDonald is exactly that in Seattle. He did a great job at Michigan. He did a great job in Baltimore last year. He drafted Byron Murphy, which is going to fill that Justin Madubuike role in the middle of the defense, which he runs so much through. They have great pieces on the defense. The secondary is incredible. I think their defense could be a fringe top 10 defense, one of the best defenses in the league right now. I just don't believe in Geno Smith, and I think that division is an absolute gauntlet.
I feel like if I could make one adjustment to mine, it would be I would give more love to Seattle than I did the Rams. I think the Rams, because they've won the Super Bowl, because you're getting Stafford back, because you still have Cooper Kupp there, there's just a little bit of the legacy vibes there, a little bit that you still kind of connect them with that. If I can go back and change one thing on mine, I probably would replace them. Arizona intrigued me. Kyler Murray's a good quarterback. We haven't seen him healthy for a long time, and when he got healthy last year, he actually balled out, but they were so bad that no one paid attention to them. I don't know the last time we've seen a very, very good quarterback on a very, very bad team to the point where we just didn't pay attention to him. The Cardinals were interesting last year, but now you give him Marvin Harrison Jr. If he pans out to be I think he can have that Jamar Chase type, maybe not impact as far as leading a team to a Super Bowl that first go round, but I think he could elevate that offense. I just like Seattle. I know you're not big on Geno Smith. I don't think that he is going to be an MVP candidate by any means, but when you have Kenneth Walker, all right, and you have Lockett, and you have obviously, I'm always facing DK Metcalf. I always miss his name every time. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have a run game. You have 3 great wide receivers. You have that defense. Man, you must be really down on Geno Smith. We all must be really down on Geno Smith if we don't have him in that spot.
I do think you could finish 4th in the NFC West with like nine wins.
Yeah.
So to be fair, with being down on the Seahawks, I have 3 NFC West teams making the playoffs. So for them to finish 4th, they could be a game, 2 games out of the playoffs. So it's not saying they're not going to be a competitive team. My main worry with the Cardinals pick is October 25th, right smack dab in the middle of the season, the biggest Call of Duty game of all time.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Black Ops 6 comes out on October 25th, and I'm worried about Kyler around that time.
He can take a week off.
But if we can put our head down and power through,
When's their bye?
it's right around there, which I don't think helps us. I think he'll get too invested in the game, and then he won't come back for game prep next week.
Let me see if I can find their bye.
I did not have the Packers in.
I think the Packers are going to win that division. So.
I did not have the Packers, but it's like I do think that you win that division and miss it. You want to, obviously everyone wants to win the division. That's a silly comment, but like you don't win that division, you're very vulnerable to missing the playoffs even with the winning record. The NFC, I think, is actually significantly better than what it's been in recent years.
100%. I absolutely agree. That last spot in the NFC was very difficult to pick a team.
And let's be clear, Washington, to me they remind me a little bit. No one at this point last year we weren't paying attention to Houston.
Right.
I think Washington has the makeup of the Texans from last year.
Well,
if Jaden Daniels has that C.J. Stroud type rookie season, which many say and believe that he can, Washington could be that sleeper team out of the NFC that really could make things difficult for the Lions and the Bears and the Packers, depending on who doesn't win that division. It can make it difficult for the Seahawks and the Rams and the Cardinals as far as that's concerned. It can make it difficult for Philly, to be honest, or Dallas, whoever doesn't win that division. I'm out on the Giants. I'm way out on the Giants. The Vikings, out on the Vikings, and then the NFC South outside of Atlanta. The Tampa, they extended Baker. They kept his weapons in place, but they were very average. They were an average to good team last year. They didn't do anything to elevate them. They're out of it too. So, I really like Washington to make things interesting.
I think they're going to be right there on the bubble for sure. My 13-4 Bengals prediction has us losing to Washington. So I think they're going to be an incredible team this year. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be great. I really, really do think they're going to be on the bubble. But like Elliot said with the Bears, even though I love Caleb, I gave Kyler the nod over Jaden for that last spot just because I've seen it already.
All right, it's Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. That was our NFC playoff predictions. We'll get to our AFC predictions coming up on the other side. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio, the show presented by, of course, United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett. We are off and rolling here on a Wednesday. Tomorrow, the 2024 NFL season officially kicks off. You'll have the Ravens and you'll have the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs have won the last 2 Super Bowls, looking to three-peat for the first time in NFL history. And, of course, they're going to be – we talked about the gauntlet of teams, their schedule in the back end. Look at what the Chiefs have right off the bat. I mean, the Chiefs are just going at it right away. I mean, when you look at their schedule and you look they get thrown to the Wolves right away with Baltimore in week 1. And then if you win a close one against Baltimore, don't worry. You have an easy – oh, no, you don't. You have a team that's had your number. The one team that has had their number, throughout their little dynasty run has been the Cincinnati Bengals. You get them in week 2. The Falcons, maybe 3 or 4 months ago, no one was paying attention to that matchup. But now I think that could be one of the more intriguing matchups. That's at Atlanta.
Love that.
And then you're
I'm going to nuke the Falcons, man.
And then you're at the Chargers.
My God.
I mean, look, for the first 5 weeks, the Chargers may not be a big threat in the eyes of most, but you still have Justin Herbert, who's back after missing the tail end of last season. I haven't heard much of an update as far as what to expect with that foot. It didn't seem to impact him through the rest of camp, but
he was throwing again, so it should be okay.
Should be okay. It's just something to keep an eye on. But yeah, and the Chargers kept most of that defense intact. Keep that healthy. I do think Harbaugh's a good enough coach that they may have lost offensive weapons, but I think Harbaugh and his staff are good enough to potentially coach around those deficiencies.
They might put Derwin James on offense, so there's an offensive weapon.
Like just a little Caleb Downs action. I kind of like it. But no, when you got to play the Ravens, the Bengals, the Chargers, and Niners for those 4 teams in the first 6 weeks, that's a nice little enjoy your three-peat. Kansas City. So they're going to have to earn it. If they get off to a hot start, they would have definitely earned it with the teams that they have early on in their schedule. All right, let's continue on. How about we go? We're going to have Jacob. Jacob, you ready to start with your AFC?
Sure.
Let's start with Jacob.
I think that really threw a wrench in Casey's plans.
Because he had yours ready to roll.
Oh, Casey, if it's ready to rock, I could just go,
Well, now it's not going to be ready to rock because he's getting mine ready to rock.
But it's ready to go.
See,
it's in
Kenner,
the
that
bullpen.
TV
But
look at that.
It takes it some time.
It takes.
All right, there we go.
Oh.
Go ahead.
No, actually,
All right.
I changed my mind. I'm going to do it.
All
I'm
right,
gonna go. No, I'm
Casey.
All right, let's go now to our AFC playoff predictions. Mr. Tissett is going to kick us off.
I'd love to start.
Elliot,
We should let Elliot start.
Okay, I'll get the ball rolling here. A lot of new teams in my AFC playoff prediction. A lot of new teams. I have 3 AFC North teams, which is obviously the first thing that sticks out. Bengals take the 1 seed. I said it earlier in the show. I predicted them to go 13-4 this year, and I think that record is plenty good enough to get the 1 seed in the AFC. The AFC playoffs are going to run through Paycor. January is going to be spent in that stadium, and it's going to be wonderful. The 2 seed, I have the Chiefs. We just went over the gauntlet at the beginning of the season. I think they're going to drop a few of those games. I think they're going to lose a game to the Broncos in the division. I think the Broncos are going to be pretty competitive this year, and they beat the Chiefs last year in a game where they were a much worse team. So I think the AFC West could be a slightly more competitive division than people think. I know people are pretty low on a lot of the other teams in that division. The Chiefs will win it easily, but I think there could be a few bumps in the road there. 3rd seed, I have the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are going to win that division. Everyone's high on the Texans. I understand that, and I am too, high enough to have them in the playoffs. But I think the Jaguars are just a better team. It took an all-time collapse last year to not make the playoffs. I think they're still going to win that division. And I think that the Texans are ready for a little bit of a step back. I think CJ is not going to be the second best quarterback in the league this year. I think he's going to be great. I don't think he's going to be an MVP finalist, and that's what a lot of the expectations for the Texans are based on. So that's why I have them in the wild card. And my 4th division champion, I have the Jets. And the reason I have them at 4 and not 3 is because I don't think Aaron Rodgers plays 17 games.
Yeah.
I think he plays enough games that they're going to win that division and be a very good team. I think he'll be healthy for the playoffs. But I don't think he's going to play 17 games, so I don't think they're going to have a phenomenal record. Garrett Wilson's an elite weapon. Mike Williams, when he gets back healthy, is a phenomenal wide receiver too. Breece Hall and Braylon Allen is an elite backfield pair. So I'm really high on the Jets. We all know what that defense is. I really think they're going to be good. I think they're going to take that division. The Ravens at 5. I think they're going to have a very similar record to the Bengals. I think they're going to be the top wildcard team, or the Bengals will. Whoever doesn't come away with the AFC North, I think that's going to be a very close race for the number 1 spot there. And then at 6, like I said earlier, Houston Texans. I know CJ was great, but second-year quarterbacks take a step back more often than not. So I'm going to bank on that one, even though I still have them in the playoffs. The Browns at 7. Simply because I think the roster is too talented. We saw Joe Flacco lead them to an 11-6 record last year. We saw Josh Dobbs come in and play all right. Deshaun Watson's not going to play 17 games. The Browns aren't going to compete for the AFC North, but the Browns are going to make the playoffs. I think the defense is too good for them not to. So I have the Browns at 7, rounding out my AFC playoff picture.
All right. Now, again, that was Jacob's. First of all, Elliot, you look at his playoff predictions. Anything stand out to you as far as Jacob's playoff predictions out of the AFC at this point?
The only one that I see is the Browns. I don't think the Browns are going to be good enough to make the postseason. And that's not a bit. That's truly everything I say about the Browns revolves around their quarterback. And their quarterback can't stay healthy. And when he is healthy, he doesn't play very well in the field. So that's the only thing that I really took away. Outside of that, I don't think the Jets are going to be good enough to win that division. I think they're going to be in the playoffs, and you'll see with mine in a second. But yeah, those are the two big ones.
No Bills in the playoffs.
No Bills
for Jacob. No Bills in the playoffs for Jacob. You lose Stephon Diggs. Is that much of a? I mean, I'm sure there's other losses too that they've had. But what is it about the Bills that not only are they not winning that division, but you have them out of the playoff picture?
Stephon Diggs might not be in my top 10 losses for the Bills.
I was going to say
their wide receiver room is bad. That is certainly an issue for them. They are Khalil Shakur, Keon Coleman, and Curtis Samuel, their top three receivers. Obviously, you're hoping Dalton Kincaid takes a lot of that receiving load at tight end, but I'm very, very low on the Bills. Prayers for DeMar. Glad he made it back, but he's their number one starting safety on their depth chart. Woof.
When they posted that, I'm like, you're setting people up to make them sound mean. Because bragging that he's your starting safety is not a good thing.
No,
I think we're well enough.
He's
removed.
not a good player.
No, he's
is
not.
the nicest way I can put it. And the safety room has driven that defense for the last however many years.
Yeah.
Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde were one of the best safety rooms in the entire league. And if we're not even talking about skill, we're talking about leadership and how much they mean to a defense. I think they're even more important than their skill would lead you to believe. And other than that, Matt Milano tore his pec in training camp, and we saw how bad that defense looked after he got hurt last year. So I think the Bills are going to take a big step back, even though I think Josh Allen's going to have a great year.
All right. Again, it's our AFC playoff predictions. That was Jacob's playoff predictions for the playoff picture out of the AFC. We've already taken a look at our NFC predictions, but let's take a look at Elliot now. Elliot with his AFC playoff predictions. I know we got a sneak peek a little bit ago. Slightly different, and by slightly, I mean very, very different playoff outlook for Elliot's predictions here.
I think you're going to see the Ravens win the division, and I'm doing this as sort of a half jinx for the Bengals to will them, because I really do think the Bengals, by every metric in the world, they have one of the easier schedules we've had in a very, very long time. I think it's the third easiest schedule in the NFL this season as of today. Obviously, things can change as the season goes on. But yeah, the Bengals, they have no excuse to lose this division or to come in anywhere close to last place. But saying that, the Ravens are still the Ravens. Lamar Jackson has won 2 MVPs in his career. There's a chance he wins another this year. He's just that good during the regular season. I think the Ravens' defense is really good. I think their offense is really good. So saying that, I think the Ravens are going to take this division. The Chiefs, they're going to come in with the 2 seed. They're not going to get a bye. But at the end of the day, they're still the Chiefs. They're still very, very good. I think they're going to have some tough tests with the Chargers. I don't think the Chargers are a walkover anymore. I think the Raiders are a little bit better than people think, and I think the Broncos are maybe a little bit better than people think. I think it'll be a little bit testy in that division, but nonetheless, Chiefs will get the upper hand, obviously, because they have the best quarterback in the sport. Jaguars win the AFC South. This might be a hot take, but I don't think the Texans sniff the playoffs this year. I think you saw a miracle run by them last year. Good for C.J. Stroud. I think he's still a very good quarterback. They upgraded the offense a lot. They now have every expectation in the world. Every expectation is resting on that young man's shoulders. And I think, unfortunately, this year, they're not going to get in because of it. I think there's going to be too much pressure. And I think the Colts are going to fight them. I think the Jaguars are not only going to fight them, but I think they're going to win this division. I don't even like the Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are a subpar team. But nonetheless, they're still going to win that division. I think Trevor Lawrence is good enough. I still think Travis Etienne's good enough. I think the wide receiving room isn't as bad as what people are making it out to be. Moving on, I think the Bills win the AFC East, just because I think the Bills have the best quarterback in that division. I think Josh Allen's still the guy. I still think it runs through Josh Allen, and I think you're going to see a quarterback single-handedly will his team to the postseason in a way that we haven't seen before. He doesn't have a ton of help offensively. He's got no help defensively, and I still think the Bills are going to score 30 a game. I still think they're going to compete for that division and win the division. I think they're the best team in that division just because they have the best quarterback. Bengals, again, as I mentioned, I think they really might win the division, the AFC North. But for the sake of me just not predicting them to do that and me expecting it, I'm going to have them come in with the top wild card spot. I think it's the safe play, and I'm not going to get upset if they come in with the 5 seed this year. The Jets, I do think the Jets will be better. They've got one of the best defenses in the NFL, best defenses I've seen in a long time. And it really depends on what Aaron Rodgers does. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be healthy, if Aaron Rodgers is going to play 15 games, 14 games, 16 games, whatever it may be, they're going to win a lot of football games. And that's just because of what they did last year. They won 7 games last year. They didn't have I think they rotated 4 quarterbacks last year, each one worse than the next. They are terrible last year when it came to the quarterback. And I think it's such a massive upgrade. They're going to make the playoffs this year. Maybe not win 10 games, but I think they'll certainly win 9 and maybe slip in. The Dolphins are going to start out hot like they always do, and they're going to get that last wild card spot. I think the Dolphins are still really good. I think their offense is unbelievable. I don't think their defense is that bad. I'm going to buy in on the Miami Dolphins. So 3 teams from that AFC East making the postseason. Kind of wild, but nonetheless. I think the Browns could make the playoffs, obviously, if Deshaun Watson is healthy. If Deshaun Watson's healthy, maybe they sneak in. But at the end of the day, am I going to bet on this guy who for the past 2 years hasn't been healthy, and when he has been healthy, hasn't been good? I'm staying as far away from Deshaun Watson as I possibly can. Outside of him, yeah, I think the Browns roster is very, very good, and it's unfortunate that they're ironically being cost games because of the quarterback they set a record contract with.
Question: Are we overlooking the Tennessee Titans?
I think so.
Now, this is before we've even got to mine. I don't have the Titans in mind. And no, Elliott, like I'm looking at Elliott's and like, I like it. First of all, we all have some overlapping teams. We all have teams missing the playoffs that another guy has. So like that's what I kind of like doing this is just seeing what everyone's mindset is. But the team that I talked about Seattle earlier on the NFC side, the Seattle on the AFC side to me is Tennessee. When you look at how good that defense is, I think it's just because Will Levis has to prove that he could be Will Levis. But you have Tony Pollard, you have an offense that has DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley, and you add Tyler Boyd to be your number 3 wide receiver.
Maybe Treylon Burks does something eventually.
To add a little bit of depth.
I don't think the Titans are going to be bad. I just don't think if you don't have one of the top tier quarterbacks, which they do not, I'm not going to buy into your team, and that's just a fact. Same way with the Seahawks. No disrespect to Casey's guy Geno. I don't think he's a top 20 quarterback. Sorry, top 15 quarterback.
I don't think so. Top 20 was fine.
Do you think top 20 is fine? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a top tier quarterback. And if you don't have that guy, it's hard for me to sit here and say I believe in your team. I'm predicting the Bills to win their division strictly because of their quarterback. I think the rest of their team's mediocre. But I think if you have that guy, if your guy is that good, you're going to win a lot of football games.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I think there's, 4 quarterbacks in the AFC South? I think Will Levis is by far in last place. By far.
And that's what I don't necessarily disagree with. I think the Anthony Richardson-Will Levis split is closer than people think. I know I had 2 AFC South teams in my playoff. I would not be shocked if that is a one-bid league and it's just the division champion and all 4 of those teams are within like a game.
The South, you mean?
Yeah. Like I think the Titans, the Texans, the Jaguars, the Colts could feasibly all go like 9-8, 10-7, and just the division champion get in, have no wild card teams, and that be a division we're paying a lot of attention to down the line because they're beating each other up. They're all better than their record says, and one team's going to get in and maybe make some noise.
Yeah, again, but then also you look at Calvin Ridley, Hopkins, Boyd. If that's your receiver room 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that's an elite wide receiver room. I think it's a good wide receiver room right now. Tyler Boyd, a little older. Hopkins, Hopkins just keeps being put in spots where you don't have that elite quarterback throwing to you.
Yeah, but he still gets it done.
And he still gets it done. And then Calvin Ridley, I've always been a Calvin Ridley fan, but he complements the other 2.
I think a lot of people are sleeping on Pollard, too.
What's that? Yeah.
The Tony Pollard signing, him and Tajay Spears in that backfield are very, very exciting pieces. I know Pollard didn't work well in Dallas last year as the lead back, but how great was he as the 2 with Ezekiel Elliott? So having 2 backs, you'll be able to split the load with him and Tajay Spears. I think the Titans are going to be interesting.
I think their offense is good outside of the quarterback. I think their tight end's good, too. I'm not going to be able to pronounce that guy's name.
Chigo Okonkwo?
You got it. I think their offense is dynamite. It just comes down to, let me be clear. If they don't make the playoffs, everybody knows the reason why. It's because of Will Levis.
All right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio. We wrap up the segment. Of course, it's our AFC playoff predictions. I know everyone, everyone values my opinion. Everyone hates my football opinions, but I'm going to give it anyways.
They're going to love this graphic.
They're
going to love this
gonna like
one.
it.
That's fine. Take a look here. This is Kinder's. Is this an playoff prediction? AFC playoff prediction?
Yes.
It does say AFC. Okay, here's Kinner's AFC playoff predictions for how I kind of envision this going out. I am absolutely 1,000,000% bought into the Houston Texans. Way more than Jake, obviously. Way more than everyone else in the room. In fact, when I tell you why I'm 100,000,000% bought into the Houston Texans, Bengals fans, you might kind of agree, maybe disagree. I don't know. This Houston Texans team in year 2 of C.J. Stroud, this reminds me so much of year 2 of Joe Burrow with the Cincinnati Bengals. And when you look at year 2 of Joe Burrow with the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, you add the addition of Jamar Chase to an offense that already had a T. Higgins and a Tyler Boyd, and coincidentally enough, a Joe Mixon. All right, and you had a defense that wasn't very good, but wasn't the worst in the league either. And, well, by golly, that sounds an awful lot like this Houston Texans team. You have an elite quarterback in C.J. Stroud. All right, when you look at Tank Dell, when you look at Nico Collins, you look at the addition of Stephon Diggs, you bring in Joe Mixon, and you have a very solid offensive line. That's one thing that the Bengals did not have that year 2, where they ultimately got to a Super Bowl. I know everyone wants to say that C.J. Stroud's going to take a step back, but no one in this room was saying, well, I think Joe Burrow's going to take a step back. I don't think he's going to be very good in year 2. Now, obviously, Stroud stayed healthy for his entire rookie run. I know that horrific injury that happened in Washington kind of derailed the back half for Joe Burrow. But this Texans team reminds me an awful lot of that Bengals team, who initially wasn't very good from start to finish. They got really, really good from midseason to the finish, which they got hot at the right time and went on that run. I just think that we saw a lot from C.J. Stroud. I think he's right up there with the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he proved that last year, taking a team that no one predicted making the playoffs to winning the division, to winning a playoff game. I forget who they beat in the playoffs. It's besides the point. I'm very high on the Houston Texans. I don't just have them winning the division. I have them being the 1 seed out of the AFC right off the bat. I do like the addition of Hunter, a pass rusher on top of that. I don't think their defense is elite. But I don't think it has to be if their offense is as prolific as what I think it's going to be. Kansas City, who obviously the favorites for a lot of people to win the AFC. I mean, this is their entire conference. They've owned this. They're back-to-back Super Bowl champions. I think that their schedule's very tough early on, but it's been a kind of a loud off season, but a very quiet off season once camp began. You have Patrick Mahomes, obviously. All right, you have Rice. All right, you have Pacheco. I know that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, that injury, couldn't hurt them later, but they have the depth to back that up. And then, of course, you have the best tight end in football right now, and Travis Kelce, so that definitely helps. I have them at number 2. Now, this is where you guys are going to think I'm trolling, and this is where you guys are going to think that I'm just doing this to stir the pot. I'm absolutely not. I know that a lot of you are down on Deshaun Watson, and I probably should be too. I should probably learn my lesson by now. But this is a guy that has been healthy the entire camp. Reports that he's had his best camp that he's had since being in Cleveland. He's years removed from the distraction that led to him being suspended. And no, just for the disclaimer, I don't approve of any of that stuff. But this is a football take. This is a football opinion, and that's what this comes down to. Browns were 5-1 when he was in the lineup as the starting quarterback last year. All right, and was he Joe Burrow? Was he Patrick Mahomes? Was he C.J. Stroud even? Absolutely not. But that's the thing about the makeup of this team. He doesn't have to be. You lose Nick Chubb in week 2. They go on to finish as a top 10 rushing team in football. You have one of the best offensive lines in football. You had Jerry Jeudy, who I know when you look at the elite wide receivers that are in this division in the AFC North, you're not going to give him the love that you probably would unless he was on your team. One of the best route runners in football, and I think is a perfect complement to Amari Cooper. I really like the Browns' makeup on the offensive side of the ball. And, of course, a guy that emerged and statistically was a top 5 tight end last year in David Njoku. He emerged last year as a star for the Cleveland Browns and emerged as a star as one of the best tight ends in football. Offensively, from the run game to the offensive line to the receiver room to tight end, it all comes down to quarterback, no doubt about it. But I'm not going to sit here and act like there is no chance that Deshaun Watson can return to any kind of form that we saw when he was with Houston. He's 28 years old. He's 28 years old. He's not an old, washed-up quarterback. This isn't like the Russell Wilson situation in Pittsburgh. I'm very high on Cleveland. They have the best defense in football, or at least top 3 if I want to split hairs. I'm very high on Cleveland. And if you can't pick a team that has one of the best offensive lines, one of the best defense, top 10 run game, a very good wide receiver room, if you can't pick that team to win the division, if the Browns can't win the division with all of that, they'll never win this damn division moving forward. I'm very high on the Browns. or it might just be high. I have the Browns as my number 3 team. Out of the AFC. I'm still picking the Bills to win this division. The Patriots are not very good. Obviously, when you take a look at Miami's going to jump off to that hot start as you talked about, Elliot, but Miami will fold down the stretch like they always do. Can they get off to a hot of enough start to overcome the second half collapse to where they still backdoor their way into the playoff? Very possibly. But I think that's going to be more difficult to do. I think they were able to do it last year because there was only 2 good teams in the East. Now with the Jets being in the mix, I don't think they're going to get away with backdooring their way into the playoff out of the East. I think that the Buffalo Bills win this division. If Aaron Rodgers is that MVP-looking quarterback that he was those last couple of years with the Packers, I would have the Jets winning this division. I just need to see it to believe it first. The Jets, well, we'll see what they turn into. I do have them as a wild card team, no doubt. I do have Baltimore in the wild card as well. Look, they lost pieces on the defensive side of the ball. So to act like this is the same defense from a year ago, that's just not the case. They lost some coordinators as well. I think that that's one thing to keep in mind is this is not the exact same Baltimore defense from a year ago. But reputation for Baltimore, they've always been a defensive team. Obviously, they're going to be in the playoffs. You have an MVP quarterback in Lamar Jackson. You add Derek. You go and add a dominant running back into the big scheme of things. So I like Baltimore, no doubt about it. The Jets in. And then there's the Cincinnati Bengals. Look, 3 of the AFC North teams are making it. They're making the playoffs. The Steelers, not only are they going to miss it, they're not finishing above 500, and I cannot wait to celebrate that when we get to the tail end of the season. I think that is one thing we can all agree on is a fantastic thing. Watching Mike Tomlin lose the only thing he's had to brag about since winning a Super Bowl over a decade ago, and that's that stupid 500 record that has really not accomplished them a whole hell of a lot outside of being relevant every once in a while, either barely missing the playoffs or barely making it. But that's my AFC playoff picture. Joe Burrow, by the way, if he returns to form, that wrist is not an issue. All right, Jamar Chase's absence does not impact this team. All right, Tyler Boyd's absence, we can act like that's not a big deal. I don't think that you lose him and act like it's not a big deal on the offensive side of the ball. There's still a lot of question marks. Statistically, this defense was not good last year. Obviously, they made some new additions. I have to see it to believe it. I'm not going to act like the Bengals, who have the worst defense in this division, I'm not going to act like that's a good thing and just automatically hand them the division. I don't think they're the most well-balanced team in the division. I think that the Browns are a very well-balanced team. The Ravens are a more well-balanced team. The Bengals are an offensive-heavy team, and they rely on that. That's why I'm as down on them more than what most of you are, not because I'm a hater. I just need to see that defense take that Anarumo next step forward. I think that's the key to their success this upcoming season. And there you go.
I think
doing that like you agreed, like, yeah.
Well, I think
stuff.
I think we're a little over that time.
That's fine.
Yeah, I like that. Listen, I agreed with the majority of it. And again, I will have the Browns making the playoffs as soon as I see Deshaun Watson play more than 5 games. But outside of that, I agree with you.
But they made the playoffs without him playing more than 5 games last year.
There were a lot of other quarterbacks that were out in the AFC too.
Mm-hmm. Browns will be fine.
I had him in my playoffs.
Browns will be fine. No. All right, we'll be right back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. And now for the YouTube side, we'll send it over to Casey.
Like 9-minute segments.
Yeah, we got to do some shorter segments to catch up on time, but it's that time right now for ads. We got to pay the bills around here. And you know what we start with? Pawnee Water, made right here in Hamilton, Ohio, uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result, a healthy alkaline water, and some say the best tasting water in the world. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com so you can buy this great tasting water. Smoothest water in the world, doesn't have any rocks in it, it's just water. Just look at the ingredients. Delicious. The Bengals Report is proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, they deliver cutting-edge IT solutions for a data-driven world. From mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions, they help businesses enhance efficiency and
productivity.
That's right.
That's right, Jimbo.
Thank you.
Visit encore.tech where your path to innovation begins. There, here, everywhere, but mainly right here. Stay right here with us. And Game Time, our ticketing sponsor app. I've used it all summer long. I will continue to keep using it. It is the best ticketing app right now on the market. Smoothest, most efficient, looks crisp, clean. It's got great features like game time pick filters, help you get out all the fluff, and show you only the incredible deals that they have on great seats so that you don't waste your time looking through the hundreds and thousands of tickets on all the other ticketing sites. I personally love looking through their like super deals, their hot deals that they have. They always come around for many different games. Mainly the Bengals games right now is the ones I'm looking at. They had one recently for the week 1 game, and they had tickets on sale for like $100. And it's like, that's a phenomenal deal. You're not going to get deals like that when the season rolls in, unless you're with Game Time, where they have last minute tickets, lowest price is guaranteed. You get to see exactly where you're sitting at, pricing all up front. It's just fantastic, guys. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time, download the Game Time app, and create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time.
What time is it?
Game time.
What time is it?
Oh, I'm so sorry. It is game time.
That's right.
That's right.
I was a little distracted. My bad.
That's
My
okay. ADD. Download Game Time today. It's fantastic ticketing app. Other little news and tidbits. Box lunch later.
That's right.
So
That's right.
members will be doing box lunch. I think we should probably do Quiplash because I will not be here Friday.
Yeah, Quiplash makes sense because we missed last Friday too. So.
That's right.
Yeah, so we'll do Quiplash today. And I don't know what the plan is for Friday at the moment because, like I said, I won't be here, so they'll be in a little bit of a bind. So be patient with us on that end. We will do the best that we can. Other little housekeeping items, please hit the like button. Share the show with a friend. We'd really appreciate it. Helps us grow. Helps us bring in more viewers like you. Thank you. And look forward to the video coming out later.
Yep. So video's done. It just when do I want to post it? It's either going to be probably either tomorrow or Friday. I'm looking at Friday though.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, again, we are going to be live tomorrow night at Champions Grill. Please come say hello to us on Work Road there. It'll be a Bengals themed show with all of us there. So hope to see you there 7 to 8 right before the opening game of the NFL season.
That will also be live streamed too if you can't make it. But
yes.
we would like you to go to Champions and be there with us live because we'll probably stick around and watch the game. So enjoy a few beers and whatnot, and just have great food at Champions.
That's right.
So other than that, I don't think we have much else to cover unless Jacob, do you want to maybe promote your show?
Promote the show Elliot just promoted?
Well,
sure, I'll do it again. So we'll be live at Champions from 7 to 8.
No. That's not what I was saying.
Oh, okay.
Yesterday's show, because maybe people missed it.
Oh, yeah. No, if you missed the show yesterday, Chatterbox Bengals, the regular season episodes debuted last night. And if you want to check out our season preview or our week 1 preview, the first bit of our week 1 preview,
sure,
go check it out on the YouTube. It's there and ready for you. So we're promoting old shows now. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, what if they missed it?
That's a good call. It's a good call.
And I think we're going to try to get it on Spotify. I think we're going to try to get the audio format.
We are working on it.
Yeah, we're working on that. So be patient with us on that end. Other than that, I think we're ready to go back to the radio. So
let's go back.
Let's go back.
Bengals kick off the season coming up this Sunday, 1 o'clock to kick off. Patriots, Bengals, Cincinnati, an 8.5-point favorite, at least according to ESPN Bet as of earlier today. Has that line shifted at all?
I don't think so.
Since then, I think we talked about it yesterday. It's just been kind of slowly kind of moving around a bit. I think everyone kind of just keeping an eye on.
I'm seeing 7.5.
Really?
So it's continuing.
I'm seeing 7.5
to drop. And I think, is that a reflection of, as we get closer to Sunday without a deal with Jamar Chase done, that line just slowly, starting to drop?
Yeah, yesterday I said he's worth about 2 points.
Yep.
And 7.5 would be 2 points.
Would be
from
that
the original
swing.
line. So that makes sense to me. I think that's probably where it'll sit until kickoff, unless we hear Jamar Chase news, and then we'll jump back up to 9.
Yep.
So the Bengals depth chart released yesterday, and it's about what you would expect. Obviously, I mean, I think the one thing that everyone was kind of speculating about was wide receiver. You have Jamar, you have T, but kind of who's going to fill that wide receiver room behind them. We knew the cast of characters that would be in the mix for it, but just kind of seeing the final depth chart heading into Sunday. Really nothing major with that depth chart, at least from my perspective. But the one thing that did catch people's attention a little bit, and again, without just looking at the depth chart by itself without taking into account how these guys are going to be used throughout the season, what strengths they bring outside of just the pass catching ability. When you look at tight end, one of the biggest offseason acquisitions for the Bengals was Mike Gesicki. We had Jay Morrison on not too long ago, and when he was super high on that pick, saying that was honestly one of the biggest wins for the Bengals in the offseason was landing a guy like that, being one of the most, being a big-time weapon for Joe Burrow, especially in the red zone. Did it catch you by surprise at all, Jacob, when the depth chart came out yesterday and Drew Sample was listed as the starting tight end?
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little surprised, but I think it's just semantics. I don't think Mike Gesicki's going to play tight end, so I think Drew Sample's listed as the starting tight end. I think Mike Gesicki's probably the second-string tight end for this team and the first-string slot receiver. That's my guess. I think I've said many times, I think Mike Gesicki's going to be the third leading receiver on this team this year. I think he's going to play wide receiver more or less for this team. Drew Sample's going to be the blocking guy. Drew Sample's going to be in a lot. All the reports from camp is that they were running more 11 personnel than ever before, so that means 2 tight ends, and I think we're going to see Sample and Gesicki on a relatively consistent basis on the field together.
Yeah. I'm shocked that he's not the listed starting tight end, because I think that's why you brought him here. But if what Jacob is saying is right, then I completely understand what's going on.
Any other surprises with how the depth chart played out?
Yeah, I know a lot of people are excited about Chase Brown's explosiveness, the speed, all that stuff. He remains listed as running back 2. He's been running back 2 on the depth chart basically the entirety of the summer. Wasn't a shock to me at all. Zach Moss was always going to be the starter for this team. They signed him to be the starter of this team. He's one of the best pass pro running backs in the entire league. He led the league in yards over expectation last year with a minimum number of rushes. He's a great player, and he's exactly what the Bengals need. I think Zach Moss is exactly the running back that fits this Bengals offense, because we talked about Joe Mixon. The main knock on Joe Mixon was a 5-yard run, he gets 5 yards.
Yep.
7-yard run, he gets 7 yards, and there's never anything more. Well, that's the exact opposite of Zach Moss. Zach Moss is getting extra yards on basically every carry, and for a team that's not going to run the ball a whole lot, those yards over expectation, busting short yards for long runs, or short runs for long runs, doing stuff that a lot of other running backs don't do. That's what the Bengals need to take advantage of, and I think Zach Moss does a great job doing that. Chase Brown at running back 2. I think this backfield's going to look a lot like the Jeremy Hill, Giovanni Bernard backfields of the early Dalton era. I think those 2 guys are going to get a lot of carries. I think they're both going to get a lot of production. I think the starter is just who's going to be out there and play one. I think we're going to see a lot of both running backs there. The thing I was most disappointed in, Von Bell starting over Jordan Battle at safety. I just want to see the young guy who had a really, really good rookie season out there. I know Von Bell's a leader. He's a captain of this team. So it makes sense that he's out there, but I really wish Battle was out there. I just think as the long-term piece at that position for this team, it would benefit us for the long run to be starting Jordan Battle over the guy you have on a 1-year vet minimum contract. Dax Hill at the starting outside corner 2 is a massive change, because if you can go from drafting a safety that's a bust to a corner who's good, it's low positional value bad player to high positional value good player. That'd be one of the biggest swings about a draft pick ever.
Yeah.
Because even if he became a really, really good safety, you could still talk about that pick not being great, because what's a safety worth? I mean, we drafted a safety, he turned out pretty good, we let him walk. So, I mean, that's Jesse Bates. So I don't know what the goal necessarily was for Dax Hill at safety, but with him at corner this year makes me really, really excited for the future of him in this defense. Everything else for the roster was pretty chalk. The most exciting battle of training camp right tackle was null and void because Mims got hurt. So obviously Trent Brown starting there.
I'm just glad Joe Burrow was talented enough to win his job back, because I know a lot of people are holding their breath. Does he still have it in him?
Well, would you guys start Jake Browning to start this year, or would you start Joe Burrow?
Jake the Snake. That's the sound of a hiss. and it's Jake the Snake season. No, that's a nonsense comment.
We did it last year.
That's true. That's true. But I think there was a reason to question it last year.
I stand by it.
Was he holding out? Was Burrow holding out, or why was he out? Oh, the injury.
That's right.
The injury. Hopefully that's not the case.
Seems like
this
you're
year.
rooting for injuries.
Definitely never rooting for injuries.
That's what it seemed like from this side of the couch.
And all
I
honesty,
only root for injuries for criminals.
That's correct.
Oh.
Alleged.
Who would alleged criminals though?
Alleged.
I'd be fine if Tyreek Hill tore his ACL.
What a
Deshaun
what a
gets hurt.
wild game we're
Deshaun
playing
gets
here.
hurt. That's fine with me.
Oh, what
Let's
a
go
wild
down the
game.
list. Let's go down the
What a
list.
wild game.
That's that
Who else
frat
could come
boy
back?
mentality.
That
just
is.
front and
No,
center.
no. Any criminal, I'll root for an injury.
Molly, the
Or
show
if
of
someone
champions
wrongs
is at
my
7.
team. If someone wrongs my team, if someone wrongs the Bengals, I'll root for an injury there.
They can
Casey-
put on your list. Anything that I thought was surprising? I think we already went over everything that was of significance. Very excited for the Dax Hill change up. I mean, like Jacob said, I don't know if there's ever been a player that's gone from that to potentially being a good starter or at least second string guy. That would be phenomenal for our team. And like I said, maybe off air, but I think that secondary has a chance. Bold take here. I think that secondary has a chance to be a top 5 unit if everything plays out the way that we're hoping and the way that it's been trajectorying. Usually when guys flip from position, they don't get to start right away, right? Like DJ Turner should have probably had that locked up unless Dax Hill truly is better than him. So point made there. The other thing, too, the Mike Gesicki thing, I'm with Jacob on that. I think Mike Gesicki is going to be a really, really good target for Joe Burrow. I think the way that the depth chart works, like I just like it doesn't take into an account that like you're probably going 50-50 split most of the time. Like you're not going to have Drew Sample out there on passing situations. You're not going to always have Zach Moss taking first, second, and third down. Like you're going to be rotating those guys frequently. So I don't look too much in the depth chart. But other than that, I like what I saw so far.
When does Burton take over wide receiver 3?
Not this year.
Not this year at all?
Nope. Yoshi's too good.
What do you mean? Depth chart?
Depth chart.
Never. I
Really?
think the 3 receivers, Charlie Jones, Yoshi Voss, and Burton, are going to have incredibly similar stats when the year ends.
That's fair.
My other bold take is just Yoshi being I think Yoshi will almost be Tyler Boyd's replacement in terms of production.
That'd be cool. Sign me up.
Be like 750, 800 yards, something around there. Just depends on if Chase sits out multiple games or not. But I love Yoshi. He's a 99th percentile athlete, so
Oh, who cares about that RAS score?
I love it. But
The confidence with Casey, the 99% percentile. I love that. I love it. All right. Continue talking Bengals captain's reaction to again, there was an announcement from earlier in the week. It's not the names that are on it. Just have a question about the names that aren't on it and kind of curious your guys' thoughts. We'll get to that when we come back. More Off the Bench next.
Oh, my. Oh, no.
Oh, wrong account.
He went from Jimmy No Wrench to Jimmy Wrench.
That's right. Welcome back, Jimbo.
Jimmy, hope classes are doing well. We welcome you back. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. Captains announced earlier this week for the Cincinnati Bengals. How do the Bengals, is it voted upon by the players? Like
Yeah.
The guys or the players obviously vote upon the captains. Joe Burrow named a captain. He's been a captain of this team every year that he's played with the Cincinnati Bengals. Thought it was interesting, and again, it's obviously we don't know exactly what role these guys play in the locker room, right? Not being named a captain doesn't mean you're a bad teammate. It doesn't mean anything like that. So I'm not alluding to that. But I am kind of amazed. There were 2 guys that, you can argue both sides of this. We know that contract negotiations and contract disputes, that's just business. And more athletes than not, or more professional or more NFL players than not will tell you that, hey, this is just part of business. It's actually not as much of a distraction in the locker room as what you would think. It's more so if there's an absence of a star player that it might, impact on the field production, but it's not like guys understand in the NFL that this is part of the business. But there are two guys that made decisions this season that I thought were very team first decisions. And I was surprised that they didn't kind of get, reflected of that a little bit, if you will, based on the captaincy that was announced earlier this week. I find it very interesting. Let me ask you, the top 4 players with the Cincinnati Bengals, and correct me if I'm wrong, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Trey Hendrickson. Would those be the top 4?
Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm not saying that just because you're the best player that you automatically are named a captain. And I'm not surprised that Jamar Chase was not named a captain, but I don't think it's a coincidence that Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson all were not named captains of the Cincinnati Bengals team. Those were the 3 that have created off-season talking points that aren't really football on the field related. The difference is I understand why Jamar Chase wasn't named a captain, although he's about to be the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. That's an interesting thing there. But the second interesting thing for me is I thought the decision of T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson to basically, who are not happy with their situation in Cincinnati from a contract standpoint. T. Higgins requesting a trade, was not happy about having the franchise tag put on him. Trey Hendrickson believes he is beyond undervalued, that his pay does not reflect the type of player that he is. That's why he requested the trade after not getting the demands that he had asked for throughout this offseason. I give both of them credit because both of them, not happy with their current situations, basically came out and said, you had T, who signed the tender early. It kind of caught even Bengals media by surprise, national media by surprise. We had Jay Morrison on, said the same thing. It was one of those things that caught people by surprise, but the reasoning was, and he answered all this on the first day of practice, didn't want to be a distraction. Knows that their Super Bowl window is now and wanted to be a part of that, to not be a reason that they don't accomplish that. Basically put that squabble aside. Same thing with Trey Hendrickson. Wasn't happy with the situation in Cincinnati. He wants to be paid more. He feels disrespected by the number that he's paid considering the production that he gives. But both put that aside to say, hey, I don't want to be a distraction. I want to be a leader. I want to be the reason that we win. I want to be a reason that we accomplish our goals. I don't want to be a reason that we don't get there because of this. I thought that those two acts of leadership, in my opinion, should have been rewarded with being named a captain. I thought T. Higgins more so than Hendrickson, but both I thought made very big leadership decisions in the offseason to not let their personal dispute be a team dispute. I'm surprised T. Higgins was not named a captain, especially more likely than not, this being the final run with him in Cincinnati. I was surprised that both of those guys weren't on that list. T. Higgins more than anything. Curious your guys' thoughts as the captains announced earlier this week.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, but that's an interesting outsider take, I think, for me, because when the Bengals announced their captains, it was quite literally exactly who I expected it to be. Like, across the board, exactly who I expected it to be. 3 offense, 3 defense, 2 special teams. Adding the special teams captains was a little bit of a surprise. But if you had to pick 2 special teams captains, it's clearly Akeem Davis-Gaither and Evan McPherson. So that if you were going to add 2 special team spots, that made sense to me. I understand the T question. I think if anyone that was left off that list was going to be a captain, it was going to be T. But I think if he was going to be a captain of this team, he would have done so by now. He would have won that vote by now. Burrow and Karras were obviously locks. They've both been captains the entire time of their career with the Bengals.
I think Orlando Brown being there is a lock.
What he's done
protector.
since he got here, both like media relations, fan relations, actually leading the team, the way he talks in the locker room, he seemed like an easy pick for me. I mean, someone had to take that leftover spot, and he seemed like an easy pick for me. Hubbard has been a captain forever.
Yep.
And then Bell was a captain his whole time with the Bengals until he left. And then he came back and he slides right back into the role. I just don't know that there's necessarily someone I would remove to put any of those guys in. I don't disagree that they are leaders of the team, but I think at some point you have to tell some guys, no, you can't just have 12 captains. We saw the Eagles have 9 captains last year, and Nick Sirianni cut it back down to 7 this year because he said he thought that was part of the reason that the locker room was lost at the end of the season.
Yeah.
He thought there were too many captains. You have to put leadership on someone's shoulders and remove that burden from other people. Not that non-captains can't lead, but that C on your chest means something. And when you have 9, 10, 11 captains, it means a little bit less. So I think it's important to tell some guys no, and that's the hard part of captaincy. Not that T and Trey Hendrickson aren't front row leaders of this team. I think the Bengals got it right when you talk about the captains this year.
No, and look, at the end of the day, no one's losing sleep over. I can't believe he's not a captain. Yeah. But I also didn't think it was a coincidence that the three guys that made the most noise in the offseason, Jamar, T, and Hendrickson, also not named a captain, even though I looked at the fact that they were willing to put the noise aside so that they're not a talking point, so that it is all about the production on the field. But it is what it is, because once it kicks off on Sunday, no one gives two blanks about who the hell the captains are at this point. So it is what it is. I know we only have a couple more minutes remaining here on the radio side, of course. But
speaking of production on the field being the most important thing, there was an interesting quote about Jamar yesterday from an old teammate, Justin Jefferson.
I saw it as well.
Justin Jefferson was on Kay Adams' podcast yesterday, and he said that speaking on Jamar Chase's contract, I hope he gets the contract done. I hope he gets the contract he's looking for. But I also hope he plays it smart and doesn't let it get in the way of his greatness and being on the field. Remember, Justin Jefferson reset the wide receiver market this year after his 4th season. Justin Jefferson followed the standard timeline of NFL contracts. He held out as well, got his money before his 5th season started, and is running on that contract extension. Jamar Chase doing so a year earlier, and it seems like with this sentiment from Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk getting back to Niners camp, talking about how he made negotiations more difficult than he thinks he needed to. I wonder if he's listening to these points from the other receivers across the league who have been in a similar situation, and he's thinking, well, maybe I don't need to sit out. Because it's one thing for Bengals fans to be bombarding his Twitter. Obviously, we want him to play. And when T signed his tag early, he said those tweets were a part of the reason why he came back so early. Whether that's true or not, who knows, but it made me feel good. And so people are still tweeting at Jamar, and that's great, and I think maybe that could have a little influence, but I think what will have more influence than anyone is Justin Jefferson, is Brandon Ayuk, is $30 million+ receivers talking about how they wish they wouldn't have held out the way they did. I think that's a very important thing that we haven't heard a lot. We've heard most players stand up for, not that these guys aren't standing up for Jamar, but we've heard a lot of players like Joe, every time he's asked about Jamar's contract, he says, I'm not going to speak on the business side of things. That's his deal. We'll let him handle it. These are the first 2 times I've really seen top-level players speak out on the other side of the long holdout, and I thought that was interesting, especially as we get really, really close to week 1.
Yeah, I think, and again, my biggest worry is that Jamar is going to lose this fan base. He's going to lose the trust of this city because he has it. He had it up until at least the past couple of weeks, and the switching back and forth between I'm at practice, I'm not at practice, and now we don't know if he's playing in 4 days. It's kind of a wild thing, and I think Justin Jefferson's right. I think there's no reason that you should punish yourself and not take a paycheck by not playing. And I don't think you should punish the city. I don't think you should punish the fan base, the people that come and support you week after week by not playing. So I think you still have 2 more years left on your deal. It's going to get done. It's just a fact, because if you don't have you, we don't have a ton. We have Joe Burrow, and that's a hell of a lot, but we still need our 1-2 connection, and you are the 2 in the 1-2 connection. The deal is going to get done. I don't know if it'll be done before this year. I don't know if it'll be done after this season concludes, but you will have a new deal. I wouldn't risk losing whatever it is, $20 million a week by not showing up.
Would you feel more confident about the current Jamar Chase situation had he never practiced for that 1 day?
Yeah.
I think so too, which is
because
weird to say.
I think something happened. I don't know what happened, but I think something happened.
I agree.
With the little fake out, and that's the only little worry I have, is because if this would have been his plan, I've seen this before. I'm not worried about it, and it'll get done right before the season starts. But because that happened, I think that they were close. Something happened, and they're not close now.
I think that's a very rational way to think about it.
So
I agree.
We'll see, but
because we kind of stopped. We weren't really talking about the Jamar thing, hardly at all. And then it was announced over that weekend he was back. Then that brought everyone's...
We thought it was done.
We thought okay, he's back. They just haven't announced it, but clearly him being out there means they just dotting some I's, crossing some T's. And then it got everyone hyped up and buying back in. Not that you guys have not bought it, but buying back into the full Cincinnati Bengal picture now. And then the very next day, just to pop that balloon, it made Zach Taylor look bad. It pissed you fans off a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's the first time where I've seen a very loyal fan base that follows and supports whatever the player does finally say, what the hell, man?
Yeah.
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's turned on him if he doesn't do that little okey doke that he pulled on everyone with that practice.
I think part of it is just how bad it made Zach Taylor look. Because Zach Taylor's not saying that quote unless he's told from Jamar or Jamar's camp that he's going to play.
Yep.
And then to going back on that, making your coach look bad, that's where the whole point of why we've given Jamar credit this whole time is because he hasn't been making people look bad. He's been doing it quietly, but obviously that hasn't been the case anymore.
All right, well, that wraps it up for us. We appreciate everyone hanging out with us here today. Continue to add to the like total down at the bottom on the YouTube side. As I always say, it's not for me. It's for these guys. It's for Chatterbox. So please continue to do that. We appreciate that. When we come in tomorrow, we'll actually be talking about an actual football game in the NFL that'll be played tomorrow night. Pretty jacked about that. So appreciate everyone. Mouse Cop sending us out with the clown alert. I appreciate everyone except Mouse Cop as far as that's concerned. But have a good day. And until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers.